Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our regular council meeting for today, Thursday, February 2nd, 2023. I'll start the meeting off by calling to order at, we're a little bit late today. We were tied up with a previous meeting, but it is 12:50. So we'll start at 12:50 and I'll read the territorial land acknowledgement. Before our meeting gets underway, I would like to formally recognize the traditional keepers of this land, and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation with a former territorial acknowledgement. We respectively acknowledge that the township of Alma-Calderman is located on the Mississaugan Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississaugan Anishinaabe. The township of Alma-Calderman respectively acknowledges that the Mississaugan nations are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and the integrity for generations to come. And we'll move on to item number 3. We're going to have a moment of silence to recognize our fallen soldiers and citizens and consider the war going on in Ukraine, and we give them our blessing. Thank you. We'll move on to item 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Mary Catherine.
I am a member of the Haldeman Court Apartment Board, so a member of a wonderful, valuable board here, but they are presenting today, so I'll let them speak, and I won't be voting on that.
Okay. You've declared it.
Yes,
Form?
the clerk already has it.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll note that. Approval of the agenda as circulated. Item 5.1. Be it resolved the agenda for the regular council session of Thursday, February 2nd, 2023 be approved as circulated. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. Today we have delegation, and we're happy to have with us Miss Anne Raymond and Mr. Gay Hoskin from representing the Haldeman Court Apartments, and they have a request for financial support to install a second entrance. Would you like to come to the front, please? Nice to see you both. Are you? Well, that's good. No, if Gay, if you're able to help us with the cards on Friday night, then we might be able to help you today. And that's not for me, that's for Joan. I don't need the help.
Thank you, and good afternoon to fellow councillors and people here today. I'm chairperson of operations at the Haldeman Court, and Anne Raymond is the chairperson. So I'd like to go back a little bit on the history of it. It really opened in 1980. It was kind of organized by a group of people, and it ended up there was the 3 churches here in Grafton that had 3 directors from each 3 members from each church, and they were appointed as directors. This is and then there was money got from the Housing Corporation. And it was a 35-year mortgage that built this building, and it opened in 1980. It's a not-for-profit corporation. There's 22 units in there, which are all full with a huge waiting list for people to get in. And it's just for affordable housing for seniors. So the rent is we feel is very low. And I don't know whether you want to know or not, but the average rent in that is $740, which includes in your heat, your hydro, your water, your garbage, a parking spot, and if a stove or fridge breaks, it's replaced. Also, our taxes on that building is on a commercial rate, which is, as everybody knows, is double residential rate. And that amounts to about 16% of our budget, which is, we budgeted for 2023 around the $34,000. And we're controlled too by how much we can raise the rent. We just can't go in and say, well, we need 10% this year. We're controlled, and our rent increase for 2023 is 2.5%. In the last 6 or 7 years since the mortgage was paid off and I think 2015, we've made a lot of improvements. A new steel roof on all the building. We re-insulated the attic because we're having problems with freezing pipes. There's no basement or crawl spot in this building. So we've done that. New sliding doors on the apartments and regular doors on the ones that don't have sliding point apartments. And we've redone the front with landscaping. And last summer we put in a heat pump for the common room, which we can reduce or hopefully reduce our hydro. We shut off the baseboard heaters, and the heat pump will give us heat in the winter, and we'll have an air conditioning spot in the summer. And we also put in a generator there about 2 years ago, and it'll gives us lights in the hallway, and it will run the common room. The common room has a stove, a fridge, and a wash machine, so people can survive in there if they're without hydro for a long time. Just bring your attention, I suspect everybody knows, but this is the only seniors, affordable seniors place in Alma Township. I guess the other reason we're here is we're a little concerned about the safety. We had a meeting with our deputy fire chief, and the meeting place for emergency was always out to the south in where the gazebo was. But concerns are there in the wintertime. We don't keep the snow all plowed away from there where people can exit out there. So along with conversations with the deputy chief, he recommends, and we agree, that the meeting place to be in the visitors parking lot place in our parking lot, which is on the northwest corner. But if there's emergency vehicles that come into that place, there's no place for seniors to get out except maybe up over the bank, and it's a very steep bank, and there's 2 or 3 seniors that require walkers. So it's a really safety concern. What our committee would like, if the township would supply the culvert and waive the administration fee, and the court is prepared to do the excavation and install this new entrance to the west end. So if there is emergency with emergency coming in, equipment coming in, residents could at least get out on the corner or even maybe get their cars out of the way and out onto the road. Now, if any of the counselors or anybody else would like a tour of the facilities, we'd be more than glad to arrange that. And that's about all our requests, unless Ann has something to say, or is there any questions?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Ann. Well, very well prepared, and I'd love to go back and see the building again. I was on the board probably from 2010 to 2015, and I know there was some challenges there. And it sounds like, you know, the roof was bad, and the ceilings were causing some difficulties too. I remember that very well. So I'm glad to hear that you've done that. And a couple other comments. I was at the county meeting the other day, and it was mentioned that one area in the county where there was apartments or seniors homes or whatever, they didn't have a generator. So I asked, I said, well, I don't remember us having one back there a few years ago neither. So I'm very glad to hear. I was told, no, you don't have to worry about it, but I'm very glad to hear that you had the wisdom to install one. So that's really good news. And I guess the other thing I'll say, it's a jewel, as far as I'm concerned. That building is a jewel here in the township, because without that, we would not be able to offer any of those services. And it's not too many non-for-profit organizations like yourselves that are continuing to do that. So I commend you, and I'm not surprised to hear that you've got a waiting list a mile long, because you've got a good reputation, and the prices that you're charging, which include heat and that type of stuff, is phenomenal, really phenomenal. So I've said my piece. I'm going to open it up to members of council. Councillor Booth.
Just two comments. One, can I get my name on the list now? Yay, so because it's quite a long list, it might take 20 or 30 years to get in there. Okay. Just so other councillors can, would have this information on the decision we're making today, and I did just talk to Gay and Ann about it, is I did contact the Public Works just to give us a cost of what it would cost. And I'm guessing, Gay, it was Sean McBride came out and looked at it, and they're looking at the culvert, which would be, and you can explain this, what it is. I'm guessing it's 15 meters by 400 millimeters with a coupler is $1,310, and to waive the administration fee is $250. So the total donation would be $1,560.40. When I say 15, is that 15 meters, I guess? And
Through your worship, yeah, it'd be 15 meters. So it would it'd be a culvert probably for a commercial entrance for the large trucks, and it's all for safety. And yeah, no, it's a great idea.
And
Council.
according to what Gay was saying, that's a much better, the town gets a much better deal on the culvert than they would buying it. So that would save them a lot of money just if we even bought just the culvert, right? So I'm very much in favor of this. I think it's a nonprofit organization and it's great for the community. So I'll let other councillors speak.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I would concur with, through you, Mayor Logo, with Councillor Booth, that we should be supporting this project and supporting the housing initiative that we have here. And as you said, Mr. Hoskin, that this is the only apartment building really, I think, in all McCalderman, and this is a nonprofit. So I would concur with that as well.
Councillor Ainsworth.
Through your worship. So I agree with everything, but I just want to point something out that we might have to look towards in the future, and I have a resolution for it. So the administration fees, if we do this, are we opening ourselves up for more people to come and ask for that? And if so, I know a group that would donate the money for the administration fees.
Interesting. I've never. Oh,
So not that it's gonna cost them anything. I'm literally saying that I would find donation money for the administration fees.
Councillor Booth.
I'll just make a comment, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Troy, that that's great news, right? I don't think it sets a precedent because, and Pat can correct me if I'm wrong, but anybody that would want to waive it has to come before council, and each one is a different decision, right? What I would suggest, Councillor Ainsworth, is if this group is willing to donate money, and if it's not an administration fee, they still have the cost of installing this, that we're just supplying the culvert and waiving that. Maybe you could talk to Ann and Gay later, that if somebody would be willing to put some money towards the installation, that would probably be great.
Fair enough. So as long as we're not opening ourselves up for the next 10 people to come in, and we have to waive that. That's
Yeah,
all I'm saying.
we're always opening ourselves up, but we also have the final decision, so.
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
and this is certainly not precedent setting as far as I'm concerned. Any further comments?
Just one is that everybody should realize that I don't think there's any municipal dollars hardly ever been put into that building. So, you know, I don't like, I'm not stuck on the word of a donation. So maybe support would be better than a donation.
Or
That's just
or
my-
commitment, we have a donation / commitment, we can call it a commitment or something, but
Well, it's up to you, but I just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I understand.
go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. I will just speak out. I think it's a great idea. I've been in here since 2012 in Public Works, and you're right. We have not been asked for anything, so I think this is a great idea. We do buy our culverts in bulk, so really this number, we're probably even getting it a little bit less than that. So I will ask about installation. Just be careful who's installing it and make sure you get your locates done and stuff. And if you need any guidance, definitely you reach out to Public Works and they'll be able to guide you through the way.
Okay, according to our nonprofit corporation, that we should at least have 2 prices to put that in, and maybe 3. So yes, we'll keep in contact.
Great.
And which reminds me, I'm assuming Public Works has approved the location.
Yes, yes. So Public Works has been out there, I believe, and they know, and Deputy Fire Chief has seen it as well. So again, if you have any questions, concerns, even when it comes to pricing, I've been doing this a long time. Feel free to reach out.
I'd like to thank the counselors for taking the time to hear our presentation.
And you are part of the community, and if you need help with some other things, you know, I can't speak on behalf of council, but if you need some help, we're always interested in partnering wherever we can.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. You're welcome to stay all afternoon if you like.
So could I make a motion through you, Mr. Mayor, that the request for financial support be approved for the purchase of the culvert and the waiving of the administration fee for a cost of, and Pat, you can get it, but whatever the cost is, I think it was $1,500 and something. And I'll call it financial support. That way it's not a,
Donation.
Okay,
I could second that. Your
seconded by
worship.
Deputy Mayor Silver. Any further discussion? All in favor? The motion's carried. Next, we have approval of the minutes. Oh, yes.
Question, and what account is that to be taken from?
I can answer because I already looked forward to that too. That's going to come back to budget because that comes under council, which is why I mentioned donations and commitments. That's coming off of our, unless we decide tomorrow that we're going to take it off of Brian. But I think it's only fair. We made the decision
Yes.
to do that. I think it should be accountable to us and not give that to Brian, because you're sort of telling Brian, guess what? We're making you give this for free, so. But that's just
You
my
had
point.
mentioned that, Kate.
We'll discuss it tomorrow, I guess.
I agree with that.
Okay. Next, we have approval of the minutes. Item 7.1, the roads and facility tour minutes of November 29th, 2022. The special council session minutes of December 20th, 2022, and the special council session minutes of January 4th, 2023. Could I have a mover and a seconder for those? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, second by Councillor Ainsworth. All in favor? Motion is carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Go ahead, Councillor
I'm-
Ainsworth.
Through you, Mayor Lobo, I just wonder if staff was going to prepare a report on when we're gonna maybe get some of these done, or is that?
Go ahead. Pat?
Sorry, are you referring to the 100-day list? Or are you referring to the?
Actually, that
roads
whole
or-
list.
Okay,
There's a number of things on that list that we talked about getting done.
I think we're talking about the roads and facility tour. Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about, Mike?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So yes, we will be bringing back a further report on that, as well as your 100-day list, because that's coming up in February. So
okay,
at your next meeting, you will have a report on it.
okay. It wasn't included in the top ones, but anyways, that's fine. The up to 100 days.
Is it not?
It's
attached to
included in the
minutes?
bottom, but not, I read the top stuff. But anyways, that's okay.
Yeah, but it was, sorry, it was attached to the minutes.
But I normally read off the.
Gotcha, sorry.
Don't worry about it. It's nothing matter. That's why I
I'll-
just read it off.
Also, Mayor, if we could have some guidance for the county road here from the county on the sidewalk here in the pedestrian crossing.
Okay. Some guidance, and I'm not sure what you mean.
Well,
by
the
that.
county has to look at it for us and actually put in a proper one and proper signage.
Okay, Pat?
So I think that speaking with Councillor Ainsworth, it may be beneficial for council to pass a resolution to ask the county to look at the speed limit and the crosswalk. And I had mentioned to council at a previous meeting that there are unmanned crosswalks. And I know there's one in Hastings, there are two in Hastings, because I drive by it every day. And staff are going to get a price on what that would be, but it would be the county that would have to approve of that, and it would be the township that would have to pick up the cost.
And why would the council, or why would the township have to pick up the counts?
Because
cost?
crosswalks are a local responsibility. The former
Oh,
manager maybe. tell me more.
I guess I never knew that. I thought when it was part of the road, that was their road and they had to. So what would happen if you had to put in stoplights?
I believe it's the township's
Yeah.
responsibility, same as if there's a street light or something on at
County
the
road.
intersection or whatever, even though it looks like it's on the county road, if it's sort of on township, we incur those costs.
I did not.
Yeah,
realize
but definitely
that.
the sidewalks, yeah, right along county road, we take care of all those costs.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Well, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think we should probably investigate by sending a letter to the county. Asking for consideration and also get a cost on putting making that, stop, an actual stop. I think they have one in Colborne, don't they? Where they have a flashing light over top of your head.
Through your mayor, yeah, they do have, it's not a stop, but yeah, pedestrians are going by, they obviously do stop, but yes, it's
Yeah,
lights over top, so.
here we have that there, and I've heard before that it's really convenient, but it's not really enforceable. Because they don't have the flashing light or anything else like that, so. And some people are courteous and stop, and some people aren't. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor Logal, the only thing I think we need to really be conscious of is the aesthetics of putting a flashing light down here. And it probably needs to be painted again for one thing, because it hasn't painted in a long time. For well, I've never had anybody run me over yet when I've been crossing, so that's a good thing. So I think most people are courteous, I would say, but I'd just like to be cautious of what we do think is a good idea for caution down there.
Thank you. Go ahead.
To you, Mayor, we'll have staff investigate and do some research on it and bring it back to council.
Sure. Councillor O'Neill?
When they're investigating, can they consider dusk as a factor? Because I was crossing there the other evening at dusk and it didn't feel particularly safe.
At dusk, is that what you said? I thought you were saying.
I
initially
bet
dusk.
I bet you said dust too.
You know, just a quick comment. The municipality is getting busier and number 2 is getting busier. And coming off the 401 where Joan used to live across the road from, that's all getting busier and I had never thought we'd ever have to pay for a set of stoplights, but holy moly, they're expensive. They're like $500,000 or $1 million, aren't they? Something like that. So anyways, so you're gonna investigate the whole thing? Maybe we should let staff do a little bit of investigating before we
Yeah, let's
go ahead with request to council.
So you may want to make a motion to direct staff to investigate and bring back a report.
Yes. So could I have a motion for that? How about
I'll
you,
make that
Mike?
motion.
Seconder, Deputy Mayor Stover. Didn't make a scoop. Further comments? All in favor? That's carried. And I'd also like to talk a little bit about the 100 days, first 100 days. You say you're going to bring that back?
Yes,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor, I'm going to bring a report at the next meeting to kind of a checklist to let council know where we're at and what items are still outstanding.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any further comments from the previous minutes? Okay, next we're going to move on to Treasury Department and someone we haven't seen in a long time, but hopefully Nicole is still with us. And if you are, then we're going to ask you to go ahead, Nicole.
Through you, Mayor Logal, I really don't have anything further to add to this one. As you know, this was brought to council and a couple of changes were requested. I've since made those changes, so I'm open to any questions or comments from council.
Okay. Maybe I'll read it and then we can ask further questions. Be it resolved that the council of the Township of Alma-Calderman approve the updated council remuneration bylaw BL 062023 submitted by the treasurer, and further that the treasurer's report dated February 2nd, 2023 regarding the council remuneration bylaw BL 062023 be received and filed. And it is the 2023-0202 NLB council remuneration bylaw revisions. Any questions or comments for Nicole? Yes, go ahead, Mayor Catherine.
In number 5, should we stipulate the number of meetings? Because, you know, I don't want Councillor Booth putting in for 8104 for a 6-minute library board meeting the other night.
Never thought of that, but thank you.
Okay,
I don't know, I don't know what you're referring to, but I guess the issue would be, yeah, but I guess you got to be careful because even with the Ganaraska and Trent and some of these meetings, you might go to a meeting and I've had Ganaraska meetings that last 10, 15 minutes. I would hope a counselor would use proper judgment. I mean, I wouldn't put in for that it was on Zoom, right? I mean, I'm hoping to have the meetings in person again, but I see your point. There is the potential that people could put in for that, right?
And the potential that John goes to one police services board meeting and you go, or I go to 12 meetings because it's monthly and one. So frequency of meetings is really what I was getting at, but I thought I'd get that little one in for you.
I don't think we're talking about the same meetings, really. I think it
Yeah.
was,
That was that a special meeting, like almost, or not? Or
Uh,
that wasn't your regular monthly meeting?
That was a budget meeting and they're gonna have another one because we told them yesterday to go back because they have to work around our schedule. So they're gonna have another budget meeting and up until this bylaw, we weren't allowed to put in for money for the library, I don't believe.
no,
That was added due to the fact that all counselors are usually given one committee that they can put in for. And
Yeah.
when I was removed from Ganaraska, there was no other committee for me. So I guess they gave me the library one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And but I've attended 2 or 3 meetings already with the library and I haven't even put in anything. So I would only put in for the regular meetings, not for something that's going to be very short.
Further comments? Okay, all in favor of this? Motion is carried.
Who moved it? Who seconded? Yeah.
Oh, we didn't have a mover and a second.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could I have a mover and a
I'll
second?
move.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover. Seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Any further discussions? All in favor? Motion is carried. Next, we have a report from Pat Kemp, clerk, dated February 2nd, 2023, regarding the Russ Creek and Hogan Road unopened road allowances. Pat, you want to start us through this?
Yeah, so for council's information, this individual has brought up this request in the previous council. And it's to prohibit motorized vehicles on the Russ Creek and Hogan Road trails. They're unopened road allowance. In the past, it had been turned down. However, this is a new council and the individual has asked that council give it consideration. I've attached both the 2 reports that were previously presented to council for your information. And I'm just looking for direction on whether or not council wants to leave it the status quo or whether or not you want to provide staff with direction to prohibit motorized vehicle. The only cost would be signage for the trail.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I did speak to a neighboring chap last night and I am not able to get out there and walk that area right now. And this chap said that that option really isn't going to be available until the snow goes down. It's quite a deep snow in areas. I do think they have some concern. When I was looking at the pictures, I seen some narrow areas and I would just like to get out there and actually physically see it for myself. And I do wonder about this sign that has appeared, and is this something that happens, that people put signs up that aren't township signs on township property? That was one question I had.
I was trying to figure out what this sign was. There was no picture of it that I saw. Was this, yeah, that's what.
Oh, I believe it's just an ATV sign to indicate a trail. And I had Yolanda search our council minutes and we could not find where council had passed a motion to authorize the installing of that sign. However, I didn't feel comfortable with asking Brian to take it down without it being before council.
Michael?
Through you, Mayor Lovell. So a little bit of background. So we use unassumed roads. The snowmobile club does, the dirt bike club does, the ATV club does, bicyclers, everything. We use them in the county forest. And the
Excuse me.
I'm wondering if it would be more appropriate if Counselor Ainsworth was Mr. Michael Ainsworth sitting over in the delegation chair than sitting as counselor for this discussion.
It's up to council. I don't see myself as a conflict of interest. Because I mean, it's an unassumed road. Everybody in the township can use it. And we do that throughout the township. So it's not just this particular road. A lot of our trail system, the snowmobile, everybody's is on. Part of them's on unassumed roads throughout all over the place.
If you're looking at me, I'm gonna say what I think, and I think that it's not under anybody's responsibility other than the person involved to declare a
Conflict.
conflict of interest. Now, someone might make a complaint and be investigated. I can't do anything or stop anything about that, but that is a possibility, I would say.
I think in this case.
Pat, can you comment on that?
All I can say is I can't direct council on whether or not to declare or not declare. It's up to the individual council member.
Answer your question?
That's it. Thank you.
I'm okay with whatever. I'm just saying it's not going to make or break anything that our club or any other club does. But the fact that anybody wants us to shut down an unassumed road, we shouldn't even take that into consideration, because who knows where we're gonna need that road in the future. Right? So all the complaints that are in there, you can add those complaints to everything that's got a motor on it. So it's not just snowmobiles, dirt bikes and ATVs and attitudes. Just add that to anything in the world that has a motor on it or anybody that rides or drives them. So, and I always see things that are kind of going both ways. And I totally understand if we've got people that are being rude to some of these people that are walking on the trails, I 100% am dead against that. And we correct that and we educate that through everything that we do. So that trail system, people have been using it forever. They were using it before we started using it. So I don't know what the issue is now, right? So we went in there and cleaned it up because the last complaint was that it was too bushy. We cleaned it up and they didn't like how we cleaned it. So it just seems like that the complaint is going on and on. But as far as the sign goes, back when we came here, and I don't know what exact the year was when we got the bylaw passed, we got the okay from the township, and there's probably a lot of different faces here at that time to sign our routes. So that's why the sign went up. And that's why we use all our signs, whether it's county forest or whether it's throughout our municipality or Trent Hills, Brighton, wherever our trails. And I would say the same thing for the rest of the groups.
The bylaw that we have, and I don't know the answer, but the bylaw that we have, does it stipulate that you're supposed to go on this road and down that road? Or is it?
No, the bylaw is wide open.
Okay, so what you haven't, by doing it, if I understand you correctly, you're supposed to put on signs, there's nothing wrong with that. Because we've given them the okay to put signs on.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd like to confirm that, I guess. And the other thing that I would like to know too is, it appears that some people, some other groups are advertising these as walkways as well. And I'm not sure that the township has given them permission to do that neither. Anybody thoughts on that, Troy?
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, no, I don't recall ever giving any kind of permission to install signs like for walking only. So we have a bylaw in place for ATV use, but all our unopened road allowances are used for motorized vehicle, horseback riding, walking, biking, and everything.
And I personally, I'm not suggesting that we should, but if we had to segregate one from one and one from the other, that can be a lot of work, and you'll never keep everybody happy doing that. So
Through
it's
you-
very difficult to do, I think.
Then you'd have to police it too, right? So if you start closing that and then you're gonna have to police it and you have a lot of calls and.
And I guess the other question, there was a comment made somewhere through there that. I guess we're always responsible, but should we have signs up saying that we're. Use at own risk on some of those, or what's the thoughts on that?
Through your mayor, yeah, signage is good, so we can definitely take a look at the signage. I do know there is some signs out there. I have worked with the local groups that help the township maintain them and police them and stuff, and they have installed some signs and stuff, so there is signage out there, so to educate and warn people.
Thank you.
I just have some concerns that, so the ATV club came to council and was given permission to put the signs up. That's what we're going to investigate. Is that right, Mayor Noble?
I would suggest to see what the bylaw says. Go ahead, Pat.
So I can bring the bylaw to our next meeting if council would like, and maybe in the interim, you might want to defer this until you've had time to review that.
I would suggest that would be the right way to go.
Because if there's one sign saying for ATV use, there should also be a sign for other uses as well, just so the ATV users know other people are using that. So there's a lot of questions, and we do have to look at both groups using this.
Counselor O'Neill.
So when I was at Peterborough Hospital there yesterday afternoon, ironically, I ran into someone who lived nearby there, and that was her exact suggestion. She wasn't involved in this that came forward at all, but she said she would appreciate, because she'd been walking with her child in a stroller, signage that said beware of walkers, basically some sort of signage. And she also noted that having lived in the area her whole life and in that location for a number of years, she's noticed a recent change with that huge group of people who've moved in recently, just not knowing. And she actually talked about the father and children and them not having helmets. And I'm like, oh, I read that in here too. So
Yeah,
clearly it's a neighborhood issue on that one. And she felt that education was definitely needed for newcomers.
Good point. Counselor Ainsworth.
I just want, through you, Mayor Lobo, just probably 60% of all the trail system throughout Ontario is multi-use. County forest, our trail system, we have horses and bicyclers and walkers on our trails. We just welcome them. And it's not new to anybody. Skiers on the snowmobile trails. It's a little more dangerous, but some of them do it, and we just respect them and slow down and go around them. So it's whether it's a certain incident or it's a just bad judgment on both sides of people that some certain stances happen. It certainly does happen out there. So, it's multi-use is probably the way we all should be thinking down the road.
And I don't have a problem with that. The only comment I would have is that it's kind of like the SBR or STRs and anything else. You must respect the other people that are using those facilities. And if you're not going to do that, then that's when you have to start bringing in rules, and then you have to do a lot of different things. So I think the staff has suggested that we defer, and I'm not sure. I think it was Deputy Mayor that made the motion.
Nobody had yet.
Oh, we don't have one. Good. All right, so I don't have to recall that then. Okay, so staff has recommended that we defer this. Does any council agree with that? If you do so, let's make a motion. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover. Seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. All in favor to defer? Motion is carried, and we'll be back for that at the next coming meeting.
Yes, probably.
Okay. Certainly by the 1st of March.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. Well, Deputy Mayor Stover made a pretty good mention too. She wants to be able to go walk it and get a good look at it, and that's gonna be a lot easier.
And you may want to defer it till the spring.
Yeah.
Well,
Unless you got skis.
Well, I was thinking I would get a 6-foot room handle with a white flag as I'm going up the hill. I can flash it.
Okay, we're moving on to 10-2. We have a report from Pat Kemp, clerk, dated February 2nd, 2023, regarding the green and inclusive community buildings. Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Pat.
So for council's information, the township did receive notice of a green and inclusive community buildings grant. The deadline is February the 28th at 3 o'clock, and eligible applicants with large projects could be to build new buildings, and the range of eligible costs is from 3 million to 25 million, or smaller projects is from 100,000 to 3 million. So the project must be completed by March 31st, 2026. It does have two types of funds. One is for retrofitting, repairs and upgrades, and then the other is the cost of a new building. So part of this initiative is for reducing the carbon. And so if you were going to build a new building, everything would have to be to zero carbon. And if it's retrofitting, then it would also have to meet you'd have to go through a formula. The other thing is, we can apply for accessibility, but you still have to comply with the green funding. So I'm suggesting that council hold a special meeting so that you have time to think about what projects you'd like to bring forward if you do want to bring forward. I'm not saying that you have to apply for the grant, it's an opportunity. I would hate for council to miss that opportunity. That's why I'm suggesting you meet on the 9th, and then if council chooses, you can give me direction on how you want to go forward. There isn't a lot of time though for the grant preparation, but I just thought I need to bring it forward to council's consideration.
Thank you, Pat. Questions, comments? Go ahead, Mike.
Through you, Mayor Logan. Yeah, I think this is a great idea. I don't know if we could use it for the arena or our Elma Coleman Community Center. But you know, it's more chat around the table here where we could use that. It's a good grant. And I'd hate for us to miss out on it.
Thank you, Mike.
It just something I neglected to say. So it is for community centers, recreational facilities, public sports and recreation facilities, cultural buildings, libraries, museum, theaters, child and youth centers, and community adult learning, but it's not for administration buildings, or we talked this morning about fire halls. That's not included in that. So.
Fire halls, public works buildings.
No.
I have never seen one of those yet. Grants for those type of things. They don't do it.
Oh, this is.
Interestingly enough, I was reading a little bit more about this carbon stuff. There's operational carbon. So if you already know all this, just tell me. But operational carbon is the where you consider how low it will be used as when you're running the building. So that means heat and all the different things that would involve heat and lights, and the other one was even more into the embodied carbon. That is the material that's in the building to start with, in the construction phase, and they're really trying to suggesting that you actually get them to as low as possible, which everybody knows. But I was really interesting to see that there's actually some materials that actually are negative or neutral carbon, and actually some other ones that actually save or eat up more carbon than they produce. And those are things are like the oceans that eat up more carbon. The other one was soil, and an awful lot of plants like trees and that type of stuff. They generate, or pardon me, use up more carbon than they generate. So just a little bit of way off, but kind of something that I found very interesting. Right?
And then just for examples of what you could do to reduce your green gas emissions. So like sealing and caulking, adding insulation, upgrading lighting systems, replacing window glazing, updating low flow faucets with sensors, installing sub-meters, HVAC upgrades, significant configuration of interior for the purpose of energy savings, roof replacement, climate resilient retrofits, adding or rearranging windows to increase interior sunlight, renewable energy retrofits, solar PV array, wind turbines, and geothermal exchanges. So
Well,
just
is that the same program that you were started talking about, the one that had to be between million and 3 million and
yeah, that's the
so our,
guidelines.
so
So
our windows in the church down here probably wouldn't pass.
No.
Okay.
and that's really just, well, it was,
Pardon me,
it wouldn't, but
because it's too small.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Mike, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Logan, so, Madam Clerk, could this be like in 2 or 3 buildings, or do we have to have it done in one?
you can apply for more than one project, but it has to be, each application has to be centered on that project. So say you were going to put in new windows, put in a new roof, put in an elevator, all within one building. And then if you had a second building and you were going to do some other, you could apply for that as well. This is all across Canada though, so the chances of getting the grants are very slim. And there's going to be a lot of competition to get it.
Here, Catherine?
Given the, buildings that are potential places, I would read that as the only one that we could probably move ahead on would be the Alnwick Civic Center, because the others, we don't know what we're doing and can't figure out what we're doing. And I'm not sure that we would need a special meeting if in fact the first meeting of, which it is, of the Recreation, Culture and Community Development is on February 13th. If this could be an item for discussion on that agenda, and we could have perhaps our CAO or some other senior staff there who could help us walk through that during that meeting. And it would also give us some public input to it, which may be helpful for making the application as well.
Thoughts, questions, comments? Go ahead. Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor Logo, Madam Clerk, would that give you enough time if you waited that long? To submit the application?
No matter what, it's going to be tight. Just because the information we have to pull together, but we could make our best effort, yes.
And that meeting is called for the 13th, is it?
Yes, it is. I mean, whether the rest of council thinks, but I'm thinking that's the only building that's meeting these criteria, which would allow, if we said, okay, we're looking that that's where we think, allow Clerk Kemp to start gathering some of the information that would apply to it. And then at that meeting, we could she could tell us what we needed to do and accomplish, and we could do and accomplish what was needed.
And I'm gonna, why are you picking on the ACC?
Well, what other building do we have that we know what we're going to do with? And we know, I think, that we want to maintain that building, and I would say we're not sure on any of the others, to be frank.
Yeah. Just ask the question.
Mhm.
Would you want to spend $1 million on it?
Well, just because we can't apply for $1 million doesn't mean we have to.
No, it says you have to be between 1 and 3 million.
No, there's smaller projects.
Oh, is it?
doing
I'm
some- yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, and this is the kind of thing, if we were further along with what's happening with the Haldeman community building over there. But we're at least a year out from being ready to move on that.
And it wouldn't take long to spend $1 million at the ACC. just because when you look at the cost to keep that running every year, like there's definitely some need. And I'm not sure if do they have a generator out there at the ACC?
No.
So it wouldn't take long to bring that building up to snuff.
So the smaller projects is between 100,000 and 3 million, 3 million, yeah. And then the larger ones are from 3 to 25.
Yeah.
And I know, sorry, if the coordinator had mentioned at our budget discussions about lighting, so I know that lighting would be considered improving.
Yeah.
And so there may be other things, if that's the direction that council wants to go. I just need to know so that we can pull some stuff together for you.
Mike,
Through you, Mayor Lobo, so just kind of thinking outside the box a little bit. And when I think of the arena, I always thought maybe, you know, it would, if you know, you could approach the Legion, because it talks about doing additions and stuff through that report. And you know, bringing the Legion into town instead of being on the west end out in the number 2 there. I always thought that that'd be a great idea and make that arena area more populated and more busier. So, you know, so lots of ideas for this grant. When I seen it, I thought it was a great idea.
yeah, I don't know if we're all thinking the same thing or not. I think that's Mary Catherine.
I take your point, Councillor Ainsworth, but I think we're a year away from being able to say that we're anywhere near that discussion level. A year from now, I might be completely supportive, but if we need something done in February, and, you know, it's probably means we're making a smaller thing, but, you know, we know that the Alnwick Civic Center is there, that we plan to maintain that building for our 4-year term as it is, more or less. We can make use of that fire hall space, I'm sure, better, maybe bring the change rooms back into being change rooms, that kind of thing. But yes, and we've already talked about the entrance and the lighting. So there's been some small stuff already done there. You know, this would allow us to take it a step further, but at least it's something that's been talked about and is manageable. And I just feel like the other isn't manageable at this short term.
I just look at the township will have to pay for the project up front, and then the federal government will reimburse the township its share based on the funding formula. So that's something to keep in mind too, as we're coming out of budget.
Yes.
Thank you.
So what are we coming back to? Do we want a meeting or not? Is that what you're basically saying? Pat?
That's
You're
what I
up-
was
you're up.
suggest, that's what I was asking, but it sounds like council may not need the meeting if you have a project that you'd like to proceed with, and that would give us the opportunity to start working on pulling some information. And then I think Councillor O'Neill had made the comment about bringing it forward to the Parks, Recreation, Culture Community meeting.
Councillor Booth.
Through your worship, I guess my only concern, Councillor O'Neill, is that means you're going to have to discuss it that night and you're going to have it resolved that night. Like, you're not going to be able to say, oh, we're going to meet in another week or so. And this is something that happened with past councils too. And all the way back is when these grants come out, you have to be almost shovel ready, we say, to go. And at the Roma that we were at, when they talked about arenas and that, townships are paying Simcoe in that to make these reports up for them so that they're ready for this. When this comes out, they hand it in. And I think we're just not prepared for it. If we choose ACC, I would say, like you said, let's choose something smaller. And the LED lights is perfect. We've changed some of the LED lights. I would expand on it a little bit if we're getting the government to pay for it, is not only would you do all the inside lights, all the exterior lights would be LED. So the whole building's LED. And that would be pretty quick turnover, I think, for that. It wouldn't take a lot, but we can't get involved in some of the other big buildings for 2 reasons. Like you said, one, we don't know if we're keeping them, and 2, it's a waste of staff's time that you're going to be pouring over all this stuff and you're going to be going up against people that have stuff that is ready to go. And that's what happened with the well. We applied the first time, we didn't get it. The second time, we had the studies done, paid for everything. And when you hand that in, that makes a huge difference when the government's handing out money, especially a federal one, like you're saying, Pat, the chances of getting this is even slimmer. It's almost like winning a lottery, right?
And unfortunately, the only time they come up is about once every 4 or 5 years. Isn't it? So if we don't take it now, we don't get it.
And we waited for that, Troy, as you know, we waited for that with the public works yard. Where we had it ready. Troy had studies done and everything, and we waited and no grants came out. And it's like, well, how long do you wait? Can't wait 10 years for a grant to come out and take a chance that you have to build, right? And
Mary Catherine?
I'd like to make a motion, and I think Mr. Booth will like it all right. I think I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to start preparing an application for the Alnwick Civic Center, and that we bring this forth for public discussion on February 13th. That report be available for that night for discussion at the meeting, and then we're ready if council is comfortable with that.
And if I could, I'd like to add a little bit more, not only the lights, if we're gonna do it, we better do the doors and the windows and those exterior type things that. Pardon me?
do something for hydro.
Yeah, I wonder what you could do for that. What could you do for that? The hydro, what, get rid of the baseboard heating. How would you get rid of that? Well,
So to investigate
Well,
the,
maybe-
Well, if you have hydro, you can do a heat pump.
sorry,
The upgrades
heat
that are
pump.
needed, the upgrades that are
What do they
needed.
call it? HVAC, I guess is the right word for it.
This is a
How's
lot of
that
money.
for direction?
That's good.
That hits the green good and hard.
Okay, great. Need a second, please.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay. Moved by Mary Catherine and seconded by Councilor Booth. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. You happy?
I am.
Good.
Thank you.
she didn't
Okay.
think we'd be that efficient. She thought we'd need a whole meeting.
Exclusive. Next, we have a report from Pat Kemp, clerk, dated February 2nd, 2023, regarding revised meeting schedule, January, February, March 2023. Pat, you got anything to bring us up to date on? Yes, you do.
Well, yes.
Okay.
So after I prepared the report, there's two things. The first one is Deputy Mayor Stover has advised that Ganaraska meets on February the 16th at 7 o'clock. So that's not a opportune time for us to have our budget meeting. So I'm not sure what date council would like to move it to. And then the second one is Nicole was hoping that we could finalize the budget by February 22nd, if possible, instead of the March 7th.
Yep. So what do we need to do? Look at our schedules?
Please.
Nicole, are you there? Does Nicole have to be involved in this?
As long as we pick the dates, she is there.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she has to be. So what day were we saying we can't go on? The
So
22nd?
we had originally we'd pick February the 16th in the morning, then I changed it to the evening because at the January 19th meeting, council had suggested it should be an evening meeting. However, Deputy Mayor Stover has a conflict, so if we can change that meeting on the 16th to another evening meeting. And then the other thing is, Nicole would like us to have the budget finalized by February 22nd, if possible.
So would that be another meeting on February 22nd?
I'm sorry, pardon?
Would that be another meeting on February 22nd?
Yes, maybe.
We want to be a week or so ahead of that, don't we?
Yeah, so the problem is Nicole has to have time to
Yeah.
gather
it's
the
gotta be-
information, finalize it, and then send it out to you for the final.
I'm open to 13th, if that's any good. That's a Monday evening.
That's no good because that's the library board meeting.
Now we're gonna start running into conflicts because we switched.
Well, I mean-
Safe drinking water, we're not going to do nothing on 14th, are we?
No.
How about the 14th, Tuesday, the 14th?
Everybody will be here for Valentine's Day. It'll be wonderful.
Just feel the love in the air. Sorry.
We have
Thank
a special speaker coming at the Grafton Green Thumbs. I mean, if I miss again or ask a meeting, I'm sure that's done from time to time. Yeah, I could miss the.
Are you saying I missed meetings? I don't
No.
believe I missed very many meetings in my 3-year tender there, but that's okay.
Well, can we stick with the 16th then?
I think we've sent some information out to the public, have we not? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would prefer the 16th.
Okay,
Okay, and then the other one is changing the March the 7th for the final approval to February 22nd.
Oh,
okay. I don't have any problem with that.
could we do that in the morning? I have an appointment in the afternoon.
No, that's the night one, isn't it?
No, the night one would be February the 16th.
Yeah,
Yes, we could do it in the morning if council so chooses.
On the 22nd?
Yes.
so we're not going to a final presentation to the public. Is
So
that-
the final presentation to the public would be February 16th.
Okay.
Okay, and that would be in the evening at 7 PM. And then the
That's the
final,
one-
that's the one that the public has the opportunity to come and ask questions to council and
Yeah.
submit questions.
Yeah,
And then on February 22nd is the date we'll be looking at to finalize the budget, approve it. And
okay.
And
And that's
what-
a special meeting?
February 22nd would be yes.
Okay,
And what time would that meeting be on the 22nd?
In the morning, I don't know, 9:30.
yeah, I can't come in the afternoon. I'm available in the morning though. Okay. 9:30? Let me get something. You'll send us an invite.
I will. Can I just get a motion for
Mary
those two
Catherine?
dates?
Sorry, we've got more changes.
Okay,
February 9th, we don't need that meeting. We
Nope.
just dealt with all that information.
you did.
On the other hand, we do have February 6th. Another arm wrestle on the budget.
Oh, yes.
Huh?
February 6th, when we decide today.
Arm wrestle.
What's he doing?
I don't,
Sorry,
I have to get
discussion
back.
of the budget.
I have to get back to my. thing here.
On the, I thought it was the 9th, we were gonna have the ring. Get in the ring and then we really get
Yeah,
going.
we. done by the 9th, that's what we're coming to.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun to have fun once in a while, isn't it? So we got everything switched around then?
So the 9th is no more.
Correct.
The 6th is an
That
add-on,
was regular council.
No.
6 is budget
6th is budget next Monday
at 9:30.
at 9:30. And the 22nd is another
Budget.
9:30
And it's
So
budget.
the 6th of
Budget.
February at 9:30 is. budget.
finale.
And the 6th
Nicole, are you there? Is that okay for you?
So the regular council that I had on 9th, it's not-
Yes, that works for me.
Good.
And can I just ask Nicole if she's there? So Nicole, when do you need the answer back from the library board? Because she sent me an email today asking when they should meet. So when's the absolute deadline? Not that it's a big thing, because I think you can. Well, maybe no, you need it from them to say where they're taking the money out of, but
Right, so I would say at the latest, February 10th.
February 10th, okay. Thank you, I'll tell them.
Can I get a mover and a seconder to make the changes? Moved by Mary Catherine, second by Joan. Further questions? All in favor? Carried. Next, we have a report from Pat Camp Clerk dated February 2023 regarding the committee and board volunteer training. Pat, go ahead.
So council had asked us to look into training for volunteers and some information had been published from Fred Dean. Council will recall, he was part of the orientation meeting that council had back in November. Anyways, he's available to come. He provided me with 3 dates, the 21st, 27th, or 28th of February. It would be my intention to invite all of the boards and committees. And the cost is $1,800 for the training, and then there would be costs for accommodation, meals and mileage. The training would be in the evening to accommodate all the volunteers. And I just need direction if council wants to go that route, if you want to do something different.
I think we've talked about it a long enough time that we do need some training. Yeah, I'll get that. And I'm not sure if this is the right one or not, and we'll let council make further comments, but I do think that we owe it to our volunteers to give them that opportunity to learn and see what they want. Mary Catherine?
So I brought forth a notice of motion last time where I was looking on for a report or some direction from our CAO, I guess, regarding the implementation of our volunteer policy, which is part of our HR policy document, where it talks about our CAO and human resources coordinator getting sort of all those basic things like police checks done and the orientation the packages complete of, I don't know, whatever trainings that they need. So that, I think, is our first step that we need to do, is do what it says there first. I'm not, and I do want to thank you very much, Clerk Kemp, for reaching out and investigating this and putting it here as an option on the table. But I do not think that we need to spend $1,800. I think that if we planned a good event and where the CAO talked about the role and the connection of who to talk to and the connection between the chairs and the CAO, where we had someone from the clerk's department who was talking about the procedural bylaw and minutes and how recommendations from the committees then are brought, and boards are brought forward to council. I guess it's only committees that bring recommendations to council, so it's the committees. We would obviously have HR dealing with the things that are part of our HR policy. And if we did want to look at an outside person talking about their experience, I would like to recommend that the current chair, and she's been chair for a number of years at the Health and Legal Center, is an exemplary chair and leader, and that in all likelihood, she would come for us making a donation to an organization that actually supports people in our municipality. So I think we can do something internally. More in depth, we may work towards that, but I think first we should get those things done internally.
Deputy Mayor?
I will be putting a notice of motion together, but I did at a notice of motion time, but I do have the volunteer bylaw or policy, HR 2.22-ON. And as a volunteer previously, it's the first I've seen it since I've been on council. So there's a lot of things in here that we haven't, that was never provided to me. So I think Councillor O'Neill is correct in doing that. I do like the fact of maybe putting Mr. Dean on the shelf if we find once we get through it, if we need to do more. I do think the chairs and the vice chairs need to have specific training. They have to know maybe a little bit more than what the board members need to know. So I would like to see that part of the training as well. I don't see it in any of the documents that I have here for the volunteers. So that I would concur with Councillor O'Neill at this time.
Thank you. Pat, do you have any comments?
No, that's fine.
Okay. So when, oh, go ahead, Mayor Catherine.
Sorry, I was just gonna put a motion on the floor, but if you have something to say.
I just wonder, can we do this fairly quickly? And that doesn't mean next week or nothing like that, but we've got the boards coming, we might as well let them know what we, or committees, I should say. What they expected and that type of stuff, and how to make things work.
Yes, so council had suggested in a previous meeting that we look at the training in February. So I would suggest that probably by the end of February, we can pull all that information, pull the committees in. And have something prepared for them so that they are aware of what their responsibilities are, what our responsibilities are, and what the connection is between them and council members.
Okay. And we do that at night,
Yes.
okay? And where will we hold that? Do we need the television or no? That's because it is kind of nice to have a television if you need it. If you don't need it, Centerton's probably, because you got them coming from all over the place. Don't we?
Yeah, and I originally was thinking here, but then I thought with the number of people, it probably would seem a little crowded. So one of the community centers is probably our best.
I'd recommend Central.
Good idea.
Okay. Do you have a motion then? on the floor?
I direct staff to prepare, and she's already listed what it would involve, so the role of committee members, the role of the staff and the interconnections between them
Can I get a
for
second?
late February or early March.
Can I get a seconder to that? Deputy Mayor Stover, further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Mayor Lobo.
Yep.
The other piece that's didn't get addressed in this, and perhaps it's still connected to what you're bringing forward later, Deputy Mayor Stover, but the insurance piece. Because there seems to be a disconnect between what it says in the policy and what Mr. McGlennon said when he was here. So just double, triple checking on that, please.
Good point. I'm sure people will be asking that question.
Sure.
Okay, so we're moving on to 11 then. And these are community reports. First, we have the Grafton Communal Water Committee meetings of November 9th. And then the Ganaraska Regional Conservation Authority Board of Directors minutes of November 17th, and the Ganaraska Regional Conservation Authority Board of Directors minutes of December 15th. Can I get a mover and a seconder for those? Deputy Mayor Stover, Councillor O'Neill. Any questions, comments, you want to bring up on those? Councillor O'Neill?
I would just appreciate if one of our two members from the Grafton Water Committee could give the most significant salient facts for our attention, please.
Well, one with them both. Go ahead.
I guess I can speak on it through you, your worship. We did meet with the water committee. It was our first meeting with all the new members. We were honest with the members that council is taking a course from the Walkerton Water Center. So the committee exists as it does now, and then we will come back and it'll be a council decision whether or not it's felt that the water committee would continue on or not. So we were frank with that. We had a very good discussion about the well and how it's progressing. And I think you were there too, Troy, right? Very good discussion about budgeting and stuff like that. And we have some questions for Nicole to get back to us about debentures and how it works. And what she would suggest is how much the Grafton Water, how much we would take out of their bank account, for example, to pay towards this and everything like that. So it was a great meeting, good discussion, and look forward to having it again. I'm not sure if you want to add anything, Deputy Mayor.
No, we're through you, Mayor Logo. As you say, we're in a bit of a transition, just waiting to see the status. And I think we both spoke about the need to have a say ratepayer water user group still continue after that. So that'll be open for discussion when we're done.
And there was one more thing that's probably notable to say too is in the last water monitoring, there was no detection of BTEX, which is what they've had issues with. And we had a detection of BTEX, which it was the toluene in the water samples was coming back, and it's so minute, it's not even, but it is a concern because you see it there. And the government made us do more regular testing, which costs big money, right? Now that we've had a couple of times where we haven't picked it up, our water guy is going to contact the provincial government to see if we can go back to, I believe it's semi-annual or annual testing, which is going to save big money, right? So they didn't detect it in the last one, which was good.
But we still have to drill a well.
We still have to drill
that's
the
a
well
different
because
issue.
the well is a different issue. The well that's not working is because of the ammonia, right?
Yep.
Not the toluene. So that's still going ahead.
Yep. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Logo, the things that popped out in my mind when I was reading the report was all these little things that's not getting done, or like the disinfecting and the backflows and the limiting access and logbooks. I'm hoping that that's all been taken care of. So, and I'm only assuming, and is Lucy that is responsible for that stuff?
Go ahead, Troy.
To you, Mayor. Yes, they were inspected. Some of those items were documented and noted to Lucy. Lucy has made those corrections, and they'll be and had to send the reports back to MOE. And they are being monitored as every other water plant is. So we are in good shape. But yeah, a few little items were noted, and they had to make those corrections immediately.
Councilor
So-
Booth.
Pat, you can.
I was just gonna say, just for council's knowledge, the reports come into the CAO, so he follows up with Lucy if there's ever an issue. And so as soon as the CAO was made aware of the concerns, he was right on the phone to Lucy to make sure that it had been rectified, so.
Awesome.
And I
So-
will note that the relationship between Lucy and the township is phenomenal. The communication is great, and I just really want to make that known too.
So how often do we get a report to brought to council?
So your water committee meets every 2 months, and then following those meetings, those reports come forward to council.
Okay,
But I do speak with Lucy probably on a weekly basis. So I get, whether it's a verbal update, email update, so I'm in constant contact with Lucy.
Pat, the one thing that you mentioned there, if they meet every 2 months and they meet in January, then they have a March meeting where they have their minutes. And then it comes to council. After those minutes are approved, it comes to council. So we could be 3 months behind.
So through you,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, if there's an item that the water committee is bringing forward, so if you recall, last summer, we had a number of issues that needed council's approval.
Yep.
So we prepared a report that went to council prior to those minutes being approved by the water committee, because we knew it was time sensitive. And then that gave council the opportunity to review the requests that the water committee were suggesting, and then move forward with those items. Because otherwise, you're right, it'd be a terrible lag in time if we had to wait.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Booth.
Yeah, and a comment to that, and the question you asked, Mike, is it wasn't the issue that the disinfecting and that wasn't happening. Lucy got dinged on because they do it. It's part of their procedure. But when the provincial guy comes in, show me the paperwork that says that you did it. And they didn't have a box to check that they did it, so they dinged them for it. So they told us right away, they changed the forms, they've added the box, the guy, they confirmed with the operator that he was disinfecting and doing everything, but like the government, you know how they are. If you didn't check it to show me somewhere, I don't take your word. So, and like Troy says, they're very good that way. They take it as an exception when they see any mark against them. And to what Pat said, everything comes in front of council. Like there was a couple of quick purchases we had to make last year. that myself and Mike were on the committee that we would bring back to council, for example, paving where the water plant is. The pavers, when we put out like an RFP, would only guarantee their prices for 14 days. That's how much the prices were changing for paving on driveways and that. So we got the prices and we came right to council the next time, me and Mike, and presented it. So if there's anything of importance or anything, we come to you right away. If it's just the regular, you want to read all those charts with everything going on, it's like you get that and you can do that on a, you know, on a weekend to read that. But anything important, myself and Deputy Mayor will bring it right to council.
And I guess the other thing, it's nice to hear that you're talking every day because or once a week, because you know what's going on. Go ahead, Pat.
And then the other thing for council's information, so every year by March 31st, Lucy has to prepare a report that we have to send to council, and you have to acknowledge that you have received that report before March 31st. So that will be coming in March as well.
Mike. Pretty near.
Oh,
It's
like
a
our
big one.
budget, like our agendas,
Huh?
like our agendas.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Lobo, the only other hot potato, shall we say, is the water modeling study. And there was great discussion on that, on who should foot the bill for that. And that hasn't been decided yet,
Okay.
whether it's the township that picks it up or the water users. And the township, in my mind, should be picking it up, and the developers that are coming in should have to tap into that, because they're the reason why we're having to get the water study. Because if we didn't have any development, we wouldn't need a water study.
That's true. And I think they
Yeah.
pay for that, do they not? When when they pay their development charges?
No.
So that's been what the discussion is whether or not so Lucy gave us an example in Coburg, they charge back those developers because they have to take the water modeling study. And then they have to input what their development is going to be. And then that tells them what size of piping that they need. So there should be a charge back to the developer. And the development charge, once those lots get approved and they are developed on, then the township and the county would receive development charges. So.
So this would be a fee over and above that, to my knowledge.
There is always a fee over and above that but the development charge, I believe, for the modeling study is paid through development charges. And then that's what I understood to say.
Well, that's the discussion is the committee is still not decided yet, is we know that when the development goes through that they pay a development charge. But what users of the system are saying is that should be towards development of upgrades and stuff like that. And they don't feel that they should be responsible if Joe Blow down the street wants to build 16 houses in there, why they should have to pay $50,000 for a water modeling thing. They want it to be more like Coburg, which is if the new developer comes in, they get charged to tap into that so that they can get that money back. So I see both sides. It's very contentious, and I guess it comes back to council to decide.
Go ahead.
So when there is a plan of subdivision, though, the municipality charges back. So if there's a cost for upgrading the water system, that would be on the developer, it would not be on the users, or it would not be on the municipality. That would be part of your condition.
Yes. Yep. Okay, any other further discussions on the committee reports?
Oh, Mayor Logo, I just had another thought. I've kind of lost track of the water training because we're waiting for, I know we got snowed out the last time, and I was just looking for the Walkerton online, but do we have another date?
So I just got an email actually this morning. So she's looking at March the 24th.
But the Walkerton study would be on the 16th. Is
Uh,
that the original?
I
date?
had you booked for the 14th of February. But then I canceled that when you were going to do the in-house training.
Okay,
If council wants to have training prior to that, I can see if I can get it through the online, or if you want to wait and do it on March the 24th with Hamilton Township, then I can set you up for that. So
I'm fine for the 24th,
March 24th?
yes. please.
March 24th.
So is the 14th still open for virtual training or no, that date is done now?
I cancel all of the
Okay.
members of council, but if you want me to look and see if I can
Well,
reschedule you,
just
I
the
can.
24th, I'm away, so it doesn't matter. I will join.
Okay, I can.
If you can hook me up to a virtual one
Yep.
sometime, then I would love to, as Councillor Ainsworth was saying, I'd love to attend in person. It's much better, but if that's not an option for me, go ahead and I'll join some other group.
Right.
and I would like the webinar one as well.
Virtual, okay.
I'm just thinking because of the water committee meetings are every other month, and that would be getting close, I think.
Yeah, because I think we put March 15th.
Mm,
Okay. I'll look after it.
Thank you.
24th? Well, that's what I'm available.
Okay.
Mary Catherine, did you comment? Okay.
So are you available, Councillor? O'Neill?
yes.
Sorry.
You didn't hear my nod then?
I'm sorry.
Hear my nod, eh?
Thank you.
So we get to all in favor yet? I'm gonna start bringing this stuff now.
Just, yeah, call all in favor.
All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have one more question on
Yes.
that grouping. I believe that includes the letter from Cramahy in that group, did it?
The letter from, pardon me? That was 11 we were on.
Well, where
Grafton
is-
Communal Water, Ganaraska and two Ganaraskas.
Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry, I'll come to it.
Okay, next is number 12, communications, 12.1, correspondence between Larry Sparka. Yeah, I think that is it. Regarding Grafton Drinking Water System 2022 operational reports for September, October, and November and December of 2022, and there's two different reports there, I guess. And I'll read the motion, then we'll discuss it. Be it resolved that the correspondence from Larry Spyarka. Huh? Sprika, okay. Grafton Drinking Water System 2022 operationals reporting period September, October, November, and December be received and filed. Mover and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Stover. Councillor Ainsworth. Any want to talk about or discuss anything on here? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Correspondence from Bruce Highcamp, Geo Camp Limited, dated October 31st, 2022, regarding Grafton monitoring wells and BTUX detective update regarding September 2022 sampling. Be it resolved the correspondence from Bruce Highcamp Geo Camp Limited, dated October 15th, 2022, regarding the Grafton monitoring wells and BTEX detection update regarding September 2022 sampling be received and filed. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Ainsworth and seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, correspondence from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing dated January 17th, 2023, requesting for delegation at 2023 Roma Conference. Be it resolved that the correspondence from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing dated January 7th, 2022 regarding request for a delegation at 2023 Roma Conference be received and filed. Mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Stover, Councillor O'Neill, and this, as I recall, was him saying that we would not be able to meet with them. All in favor? Carried. Then we have more correspondence. Correspondence from the County of Brant, December 17th, 2022. Regarding Bill 23, More Homes Built Faster Act. From the City of Cambridge dated December 21st, 2022, regarding opposition to Bill 23, More Homes Built Faster Act. The Township of Grammy dated January 10th, 2023, regarding support for the City of Stratford's petition regarding funding and support of Via Rail services. We have another one from Impact dated January 16th, 2023, regarding farm forest exemption. The next one is AMO Communications dated January 19th and January 25th, 2023, regarding the AMO watch file. AMCTO dated January 20th, 2023, regarding advocacy update. And finally, Impact dated January 25th, 2023, regarding Impact's 2022 partnership report. Could I get a mover and a seconder for all of those reports? Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Any discussion or question, comments? Go ahead, Councillor O'Neill.
Through you, Mayor, to our clerk, I noticed a letter from Cramahe Township from their clerk, and if I recall correctly, we said that we wanted to endorse, I'm not sure if that's the same as what's here, that resolution. I'm just wondering what happened with that, and
Yep. It went out.
Yes, so there was correspondence received from the city of Stratford at a previous council meeting, and council did give direction to staff to provide them with a letter saying that we fully supported it. So yes, that has been done.
thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? I have one kind of related. Impact, we were going to come visit us. Any news on that?
Yes, so I've talked to Catherine Barr and she will be here at our February 16th meeting.
February 16th. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. Be here before the budget and all that type of stuff.
Through you, Mayor Lobo. So I did have the opportunity to go down and see Impact down in Trenton. I sat with them for an hour or so just to kind of educate myself. When she comes, Madam Clerk, can we put her at the end of the meeting? Only because I asked her to bring a couple of videos that she thought would be helpful for for council to kind of understand. So one of them is called The Life of a Permit. And I thought that would be good for us to see. So she'll need more than 10 or 15 minutes.
Is it good for the public, like, or not?
Why not? Because part of the visit was dealt with communications with the public when they're doing permits, making sure that they understand what impact is all about, and that it's going to involve impact somewhere down the road when they're done their projects. And I sat down and I had a chat with our CBO and give him a package to what I brought home, and where we can communicate more and inform residents more that this is just part of the big circle, then it would help Impact when they go knocking on doors.
Thank you, Pat.
So when we invite guests to come in and give us a presentation, it's different than the delegation. So I have spoke to her and we were going to allow her half an hour. And so we'll put her at the end of the delegations, but not at the end of the agenda.
Because I think a lot of people would like to hear some of that.
Yeah.
All in favor? Carried. Next, we're going into bylaws, number 13 13-01, bylaw to number 13, 2023, being a bylaw to amend bylaws number 7, 2023, being a bylaw to appoint members to all boards and committees for the Township of Allen-McCullum for the term of 2022-2026. Be it resolved that bylaw number 13, 2023, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 07, 2023, being a bylaw to appoint members to all boards and committees for the Township of Allen McCullough for the term 2022 to 2026 be read and deemed to be passed the second day of February 2023. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor O'Neill and seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Today we talked about the remuneration bylaw 06/2023, but we didn't list, it's in your package, but it wasn't listed under bylaws. It needs to be passed if you want to approve that remuneration bylaw.
Okay. What would I need to do that? Would you have to?
So
prepare something?
it's already been on it's already on the agenda. It already has a bylaw number. We just need to pass a motion. If council's in favor, pass a motion to approve the remuneration bylaw.
Okay. Everybody understand? We've got a request to approve the bylaw. Do you know what number it is?
06.
06, 2023, and it's a bylaw to amend the remuneration and to rescind the one from 2022. Is that good?
Correct. Yep.
I get a motion to approve that bylaw. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor O'Neill. The more hands you get up, the better, you're better.
It makes them work harder when they have to put in Councillor Mary Catherine O'Neill instead of something short like Councillor Greg Booth, eh?
All in favor? Carried. And looks like announcements and notices of motion. Which one?
The
Yes, okay. The first one involves the comment that I'd like to talk a little bit about is the nomination for the Crossan Award. And there was one submitted to the chamber, excuse me, regarding the De Jong family. And so just I'm just letting you know that Chris and Amy De Jong and their ancestors as well as their children are involved in the operation there, and so that's who we nominated. And Pat, thank you very much for your hard work.
So did you want a motion from council to accept that nomination?
Yes.
Okay,
I would
and
take
did
it.
you also want me to read the letter so council knows
Sure.
what it's about?
Sure.
Okay.
Perfect. We're gonna argue with her. Would you read that, please, Pat?
Certainly, I'd be happy to. So the Township of Allen McCullough is pleased to nominate the Dijon family, Chris and Amy, Rod and Nancy, for the James Crossan Award. Gerben and Ann Dijon purchased a farm on South Burns Road in 1966. The third generation has been actively working on the farm for a few years now, and they will be both graduating in the spring with a degree in agriculture. The farm started in 1966, cash cropped corn, soybeans, wheat, and hay. The farm also raised pigs from birth to shipping weight, as well as beef cattle. Through the years, the second generation has expanded their land base for cash cropping significantly. Rod and his wife Nancy expanded into the turkey business with their company Knoll Crest Poultry. Chris and his wife Amy continue to run the pig operation from birth to shipping weight. Currently, Chris and Rod operate Dijon Family Farms Limited and will be looking to add their sons Trevor and Kyle in this spring for a company created to run the cropping side of the business for selling the commodities they grow. The Dijon family belongs to the Northumberland Federation of Agriculture, Ontario Pork Producers, Ontario Soil and Crop, and the Turkey Board. The family has served and continues to serve in community churches. We have been involved in the hockey community and served on committees for our children's school. Their dad served on the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. They have been participants in local community events and sports events. The family provides donations of meat to the local food bank. The Township of Allen McCullough feel the Dijon family are very worthy candidates for the James Crossan Award.
Thank you, Pat. All in favor of that?
Did you get a motion?
Oh, a motion, I'm sorry. Moved by Councillor Booth and seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. that we approve sending this on to the Chamber of Commerce for the James Crossan Award. All in favor? Motion is carried. I'd like to just update council a little bit on the trip that we had. Some of us went to Roma to hear about or talk to the ministers about. The first one was the Minister of Transportation, and we have received response. We got a good response when we were there. And we also have received a response from them again, asking if they could come to visit us. And at that time, we'll do a site visit with them. The other one we saw was our good friend, Mr. Pacini, and I believe that one went very well as well. There was a little bit of confusion as to who's responsible for what. And staff prepared a letter for Mr. Pacini, and we'll be getting a good explanation to him of some of the issues that we've encountered. I was called by a resident 2 weeks ago and asked me why I had not attended a public meeting regarding the overpass at Nagle Road. And so just so everybody's aware, there's the intention by the MTO to do some work there. In fact, make that an interchange. And I had to respond because I wasn't there because I didn't know about it. And I don't think very many people did know about it. A friend of mine, Scott Jibb, the mayor of Hamilton, found out about it the day before, and he was able to attend. The town of Coburg was quite a bit involved, and I was disappointed that we weren't in contact, because what concerns me most about this is the possibility of Nagle having a interchange, which is coming, and where those cars are going to go if the 401 ever gets shut down. And probably where that will be, if they were coming east, it would be down Old Danforth Road, perhaps Massey Road, or Gully Road, eventually down number 2, and I just can't see them heading back to Baltimore and then going up. So I've got something from Mr. Jibb this morning, and I have some contacts that he's provided me, and we'll be following up to see why weren't notified, especially when they're notifying some of our residents. Why the township would not be notified is beyond me. So we'll be handling that, and I think that's it for me. That's all that comes to mind right now anyways. Okay, Deputy Mayor Joan.
Okay, I would like to we'll email a notice of motion to Madam Clerk, and I'll read it as follows. I'd like this, if possible, to be included at the agenda for the regular council meeting of February 16th, 2023. The subject is statement of policy and procedures, including to include duty of care for volunteers of Alma Calderman, and which the notice of motion reads as follows, that HR 2.22.01 be revised to reflect the below changes, that HR 1.03.0N paragraph 104 be removed. And I'll just quickly state why I think this should be removed. I know you don't have the policies in front of you. It says, please treat this manual as confidential. You are not to publish, reproduce, or disclose any part of this manual to any other individual except for employees of the Township of Alma Calderman, or if you are required to do so to be part of your job. Failure to abide by the policies and procedures contained in this manual will result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Well, the whole policy was put on the website, and I don't think the policy and procedure binder should be treated as confidential. That's my, in my mind. So I would just like to get a report back from staff to that effect. The rest of it is that HR 2.08.0 include the word volunteer. That HR 2.22.0N4F include HR 5.01.0N. That HR 501.0N include the word volunteer. And that is the big policy. And it doesn't protect the volunteers at all. And that the word volunteer be used in any other statement of policy and procedure that would provide duty of care for volunteers of Alma Coleman. So Madam Clerk, I will send that off to you. As well, it was a very good Roma conference. Enjoyed the presentation. I think we've all mentioned that the STR presentation was excellent. And it's just a really good time to network and find out what's out there. We walked through the trade show. I know Councillor Booth managed to pick up 1 or 2 pens.
That's all that was left.
And I think it's good. I think some of the other councillors are headed to some other conferences. So that's what I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Next on the list, we have, where'd that go?
That's our answer.
Councillor Ainsworth.
Through you, Mayor Logo, I'd like to make a motion at this time to have staff bring back a report on our employees' sign-offs. So first aid, health and safety, any documents that we have, policies, procedures, things that have to be done through legislation like Bill 45, that kind of stuff. And I know February is busy, but maybe sometime in March in our first or second meeting. Is that possible?
So you're asking for just a confirmation that things are being signed off properly?
Yeah, I'd like to see where we stand as a township, where all our employees are as far as all their, like our due diligence for making sure everybody's signed off, knows what the policies are.
Yeah.
And, equipment, everything.
Yep, no problem. I think I don't think you want the real details. You just want them.
I would like to see all of our policies and procedures and sign offs and that they're all up to date.
To your worship, yeah, we'll provide some, and you're right, it won't be in February, so it'll be sometime in March for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Councillor Ainsworth?
No, that's great.
Councillor Booth.
Yes, through you, your worship, just wanted to concur with the deputy mayor and the mayor. Roma conference was very good. I don't particularly attend a lot of them because I did a lot in my former job. And this was really good, though. The networking and especially the presentations on the STRs was really good. And I'm hoping that Councillor Ainsworth and the deputy mayor can get those together to show the members. Also, just a public announcement that tomorrow is a PA day. So for the public out there that are listening, is that tomorrow there's a skate on Friday, February the 3rd from 2:30 to 3:30 for public skate for the kids and from 4 till 5:30 for youth stick and puck. So if anybody wants to know where they can send their kids tomorrow, the arena is the place to go. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Booth. Councillor O'Neill.
I've got a list for you. The first is a note of praise that I received for the snow removal this season. So passing that along, if you could. I did attend the Roseneath Agricultural Society, which is also referred to as Fair Board AGM, and I'm pleased. I mentioned this during the delegation on budget, but I'm going to bring it back again today. that they were able to get 24 board members and several of them young. And by young, I mean in their 20s or early 30s. And they have 8 backup board members as well. So there's no excuse not to have people at the meeting is how it will look. So congratulations to them. The Recreation, Culture and Community Development Advisory Committee will be meeting for the first time on February 13th. And I have registered for the Climate Caucus Summit. So that is a group of primarily municipal elected officials, although there's some people who work for municipalities on that file. It's online and it's a group out of British Columbia hosting it. So it's a national organization.
Anything else, Mary Catherine?
No, it was several things on the list, but quick.
There was one other one that I wanted to talk about. There was an opportunity to attend it's a farmers association. And I don't have the information, but I know it wasn't until the end of March. And I will get it to you. It's viral and it's put on by the agricultural people, but I'll get it. Did you see it?
That's what he sent to me this morning.
Was it this one? Yeah. No, I don't think it was. It was a different one, I think.
The Ontario Farmland Forum.
That's it.
Okay.
What was that?
You did send it to me this morning and it's on March 23rd.
March 23rd. And can you tell everybody a little bit what it's about or did?
It just says the Ontario Farmland Trust is pleased to invite you and your colleagues to the 2023 Ontario Farmland Forum. The forum will be held virtually and in Guelph on March 23rd, 2023. This year's theme, Planning to Save the Soil, may be of interest to you and your fellow elected officials.
That was it. Thank you. That's what you were gonna put on next. You'll get a whole copy of it on the next community council meeting. Okay, that concludes our regular meeting. Or I shouldn't say that, it doesn't conclude it, but we're gonna go into closed session and then we'll be back to finish up the rest of the meeting. But before we do that, I'm gonna take a 10-minute break. So can I get a mover and a seconder to? Well, okay, so what you're suggesting is to recess? Okay, that's fine, isn't it? I'll read the motion then. What's that?
Sorry.
Doesn't matter. Okay, we're gonna go into closed session and I'll read the motion that the council of the Township of Allen-McCullough will be recessing to a closed session under section 239(2) to consider personal matters about an identified individual, including municipal or local board employees, and secondly, a litigation or potential litigation, including matters before the administrative tribunal affecting the municipality or local board, and finally, relative to the review of applications for the township's short-term rental ad hoc committee, and to discuss the legalities related to a bylaw infraction with the CAO, bylaw enforcement officer, clerk, and deputy clerk remaining. And we're going to break into a closed session at 2:55. All in favor?
Who moved to second?
Oh, move it or seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Silver, seconded by Councilor Booth. All in favor? Motion is carried. And we'll be back to live when we're finished to close. Thank you, Yolanda. Okay, we're going to need a motion to go back into regular council. Be it resolved, the council of the Township of Allen-McCullough reconvene to a regular session at 6:23 p.m. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Mary Catherine, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have a confirming bylaw number 142023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council session held on Thursday, February 2nd, 2023. Be resolved that bylaw number 2023 a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular session of council held on Thursday, February 2nd, 2023 be read and deemed passed the second day of February 2023. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. All in favor? Motion carried. 17, adjournment. Be it resolved that the regular session of the council of Thursday, February 2nd, 2023 be adjourned at 6:24 PM. All in favor? Mover and a seconder, pardon me. I'm getting tired. Moved by Mary Catherine, seconded by Councillor Booth. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone.